This is Sarah Kumalo. We're back on Summit with a Purpose in conversation with Kate Strong. The name, how appropriate is your surname, Kate Strong? So we are going to talk to Kate for the next 45 to 1 hour. She's going to introduce herself to us, and we're going to hear about her journey, where she's come from, where she's going. There is Everest in there, our favorite topic. And she's also aiming to be the first woman to do something exciting that we're going to talk about. Thank you very much for joining us as we go along. Please pop in some questions, and if you are only listening to this after the chat, that's also good. Thank you for taking the time to listen to us. And here we go. Hello, Kate. How are you doing?
Hi, very, very well, thank you. Thanks so much for inviting me on your show today.
Thank you, Kate. So tell us a little bit about you. What is it that you do? Maybe we start with where you've come from. I know I've read about you and the World Championships. Maybe a little bit more about that before we go to your exciting project coming ahead.
Sure. So I'm from a country called Wales, which is based in the UK. And I come from quite a normal family. And what the championships you're referring to is when I was 18, I was following what my parents wanted me to do. So I went to university and got a degree and a job and realized that I'd fallen into a life I didn't like. So I did my best to break free from that. So emigrated to Australia. And in Australia, I started a few hospitality companies and got myself into quite a toxic relationship with a guy that basically suppressed me being me, in short. And when we finally broke up, just 6 days before my wedding, I kind of had an epiphany moment where I went, today is the youngest I'm ever going to be. Why am I delaying what I want to do? Yeah. So I've always wanted to do triathlon, which, as you know, is swimming, cycling, and running. Yeah. So in order to find who I was and find out what my best was, I aimed to be the best. So I just said one day, I'm going to do a triathlon. I'm going to be a world champion in it. And that was that. Past 14 months, I actually was. So wow. After a lot of hard work, a lot of tears, a lot of breakdowns, crying, bleeding, and all the tantrums I threw, I found myself on a podium competing for Australia and won. So that's pretty much me in a nutshell and my past.
That is amazing. That requires like a very different mindset. What was the mental preparation before that?
I think looking back, I can see the steps I took, but whilst in the moment, I didn't know what I was doing. All I needed to know was I needed to embrace being selfish. I needed to embrace putting myself first. I'd been living, putting my job, putting my boyfriend, putting my career, putting everyone else ahead of me to my detriment and ultimately to theirs, because there was less of me to help them. Yeah. So the mental preparation was to release the guilt about being selfish, that I had the right to try. I had the right to start. And self-love, being able to own the beauty, the wrinkles, the pain, the age, everything that I normally sort of shied away for or beat myself up over. So those were the two first steps I needed to take. And I suppose the mental resilience and the strength that we think about while summiting Everest or becoming a world champion came later, but those were the two foundations that I really put in place.
Yeah, well, that is exciting. It's interesting that you call it selfish. When you're in an aeroplane, they say put oxygen on yourself in order to save other people. And actually, you're loving them in loving yourself. You've got enough space for everybody else as long as you start with you. So I commend you for that. That sounds very exciting. So why Summit for Adventure and Leadership? Why that name, and what is it? What is that all about? I saw that on your profile.
Yeah, so I love embracing all parts of me. So I suppose why I own being an adventurer and a leadership coach is because I'm tired of compartmentalizing myself. I want to be Kate Strong everywhere I am. I don't want to wear a different cap on the weekends as I would weekdays. So I'm creating a life where every day to me is a fun day. So I've just decided to unify the two. And for me, I think it's really important for leaders nowadays, be it emerging leaders, aspiring leaders, or already at the top of their game leaders,
Yeah.
to know that we need to turn up everywhere in our lives as an adventurer, as someone curious to explore more, be that at work, be that with our family, as well as in sport as well.
Yeah, that is exciting. Tell us a bit about your corporate career. I mean, did you do that or not at all? So from high school, how did that go to university, and then?
Yes, I studied engineering, so I've got a double master's in mechanical engineering for my sins. So completely not my personality. That was something my parents chose for me, and I complied. So I did work a little bit in engineering, in aerospace engineering, and realised corporate is not for me. I'm far too free spirit. I'm far too off the radar, in short. So I knew I had a very short shelf life there. So I haven't really worked in large organisations. I've worked more for solopreneurs or entrepreneurs or starting my own business.
Yeah.
But even large organisations, even corporations, are made up of just a lot of individuals. So I look at businesses as people. It's just rather as a community, rather than one or two people. There might be a couple of thousand. So that's how I deal and work with larger organisations nowadays. I still deal with the person inside of the business rather than big scary corporation that we sometimes think of them as.
Yeah, exciting. So let's go to your plans. What you aim to, the record that you aim to break. When is it coming up? What is it? If you can go through the detail. I know it's got 3 components. What's the plan at the moment? And and let's start there. And then I've got more questions about it because I'm very curious.
Yeah, so similar to you in the UK, we went through lockdown recently, through this global pandemic. And in that space of being denied my freedom, if you want, I had a lot of time to reflect and realise that there were some dreams of mine that I was putting on hold. And one day I just thought, well, why not aspire for them? Why am I suddenly again playing a little smaller? So I've created this challenge that pretty much no one else in the world has done, which is to do the world's toughest cycle race, which is called Race Across America. So it's 3,000 miles from coast to coast through the Rocky Mountains of America. So I'll be doing that in June 2022. Because I'm a triathlete at heart, I wanted to then squeeze in a little swim. So I've chosen in August to swim from England to France, which is 21 miles of ocean swimming. And something that I didn't know recently is I can't wear a wetsuit. So I'll have to do that in a bathing costume. So quite cold.
Okay.
And, a triathlon needs a third discipline, and something that has been on my list for a little while, ever since I summited Mont Blanc with my father and started training for that, is Everest. So the following year, but within that 10-month period, I'll be heading off to Nepal to attempt to summit Everest, if the mountain will allow me to. So it's very exciting. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
We are going to be following you. I'm very excited myself. I can't swim. I think I swim as good as a rock, so I'm not going to try that. But absolutely, the cycling is exciting, and also the climbing. Have you decided on which side of the mountain you're going to attempt, on the south side or the north side?
Not yet. I'm currently in planning phase. So I'm not sure if, each one of these projects is colossal in its own right. Yeah. So I've sat down with an operations man, and my partner's very helpful here as well. And we have about 50 to 60 spreadsheets working out timings and logistics and training to make sure that I don't overtrain as well as under prepare. So I'm not that detail yet, but we'll decide by the end of next month.
Absolutely. You still have time. I mean, we're talking about 2022, so you do have time. Tell me a little bit of how you're preparing. I mean, this is a journey that you started during lockdown. Most likely, if you have been locked down as we were, we started with no going out at all, to going out from 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock in the morning. And now you can do a little bit of training outside, but you can't go for races where there are groups of people. So how are you training? How are you preparing for this?
Yeah, good question. I think a lot of people in lockdown, we focus on what we couldn't do, and we focus on the scarcity and what we've lost, rather than the potential of how we could learn to be more resilient and adapt to it. So something I decided to do was focus on indoor training and focus on the inside of myself, my mental resilience, because I think, physically we can get as prepared as we want, but if we don't believe we can do that, then we're going to fail. So through lockdown, the physical aspect is I moved my bicycle indoors. So I'll just move this for the people on YouTube. You can see just to my side, I brought my bicycle indoors. So I've been indoor cycling pretty much every single day, and preparing myself mentally, making sure that I believe this is possible. And, I know that you are also a pioneer in your own right with having been the first Black African to summit Everest. But it's about changing the mindset of, we don't have someone else to aspire for. We don't have that role model to look up to. So it's how can we believe it's possible if no one else has done it? So I've been really focusing on the inner work of myself to know that those foundations will support me through everything.
Yeah. So one of my favorite quotes that I think I also quoted yesterday is Nelson Mandela saying, "It always seems impossible until it's done." So we're rooting for you, and I'm sure you are going to make it. What is your motivation for the challenge?
Yeah, I've got two really strong motivations, if you want, something in me that's burning, and it's hard to put into words because we do things without knowing why sometimes. But one of them is to demonstrate that we live a life without a glass ceiling. Anything is possible if we believe it. I believe a lot of the problems and distress we feel in our life today is solvable if we just elevated our belief structure that we could find a solution. So I'm happy in a painful sort of way through the challenges to demonstrate that we can elevate, we can do this. We just need to believe it's possible. So one of it is that mindset piece, and the other aspect is that I'm really passionate about sort of opening up this possibility to more individuals. The numbers I'm hearing is only 18% of the Race Across America cyclists are female. Only 18% of Everest summiters are female, and quite a few of them are the same woman over and over again. A few more for the swim. And I know that for minorities, for Blacks, for Black Africans, for disabilities and socioeconomic communities as well, who aren't as in a privileged state, the numbers are minuscule. Like, why should it be allowed for just a certain select few, the privileged few who have access to resources and just so happen to be born a certain gender, a certain community? So I really want to just open up that conversation of how can we engage this to everyone and to more people? Because sport, nature, striving is a gift for every human being on this planet. So what can I do within this to make sure that more communities hear about it, have that role model, but also, strive towards being able to do it themselves? So I'm in a privileged place. I'm sitting here in the UK, a white female, having access to a lot of these boardrooms to have that conversation. So my first question is, show me your demographic percentages. How can we open this up to more communities rather than just your own usual pool that we fish from? How can we make sure that we're being more accessible to every community in the world rather than just the ones we already know and are familiar with? So those are the two really big sort of causes. And, I'm really excited also. At the end of this year, I'm doing another world record as part of my training. And we're doing a documentary around it.
Oh, so really? Wow.
I've teamed up with a professor. I'm talking a lot, so if you want me to slow down, just
please, go ahead. We've got an hour. I'm learning. I'm understanding a little bit more about what you're doing. So that's great. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So I've teamed up with a professor from a university in Leeds in the UK because he's done a lot of work about race and racism in sport, and we're going to be creating a documentary about discussing the whole aspect of sport, especially cycling, which is very white men dominated, and discuss why that is so, how we can actually open it up in a fair and equal playing field. So I'm really excited because I'm also learning how to shoot a documentary and how to carry out interviews, and I'm reaching out to really aspiring individuals in this field, both in the academic world, to make sure my numbers are correct. It's not just run by emotion. We're back with data, and also on the street to just stop people in the middle of the road and go, hey, have you ever noticed this? What's your thoughts on that? So it's dipping into people's lives. I'm loving it. So there's again another skill that I'm opening up.
Oh, that is exciting. And when do you plan to have this documentary for the public? Is this after your attempt, your challenge, or is this going to be before 2022?
I think it'll be before. So at the end of this year, for part of my training, no female has ever got a world record for cycling for 24 hours non-stop on a static bicycle. So that's what I'm training for at the moment. And once that's complete in mid-November, I think we'll tidy up the documentary and launch it in 2021. And then we'll do another documentary for the trilogy, the Limitless Challenge. But yeah, I think it's important to have that conversation rather than just, when I say superficial, I don't mean to diminish what I do or any other athlete. But I don't just want to talk about cycling. I want to talk about the deeper conversations too, about the gratitude I show for having this opportunity to being on my bike, and the access that I have to certain skills and services that maybe aren't open to everyone. So I just want to open up that conversation so more people are aware in how we can all contribute positively to making this an equal playing field for the world.
Yeah. That is something, I have chatted to you before. That is something that I'm very passionate about. I've been on a mountain where somebody said, what are you doing here? And I know for a fact that if my color was different, they wouldn't ask me that, So it's about making adventure fashionable, making sure there's representation so that the next generation doesn't have to feel that, should we or should you not, but know that it's there for you to try out if you want to, and not because, you're trying to be the first one and you see it as an obstacle, rather an opportunity, like you see it today, like probably I see it, so I'm very excited and very much supportive of the work that you're doing. And if there's anything I can contribute, even in a small way, please shout out. Let's go to the next question. So you probably have answered this, because I don't know if, based on what you've shared and your plans, COVID-19 has affected anything at all. Would you be training outside more had it been different or not?
No. If anything, with acknowledgement how the impact has been quite dramatic for others, for me, it's actually helped me. My business has organically grown through this, through the COVID-19. And it's also channeled my fuel, if you want. I'm distracted less. I'm forced indoors more. I'm forced to do, there's more time for me. So my training has actually improved. And because my world record attempt for 2022 is so far away, I don't really need to be training for swimming or the Everest just yet. So I'm very grateful that for me, nothing, if anything, it's helped me. So yeah.
You said your business has improved. What business do you do outside of the training? Can you tell us a little bit more about that? I know about coaching. Anything else that you're into?
My primary business is to coach and consult. I did do a bit of speaking before COVID, so that did go on pause. So that was an impact. But yeah, I help organizations usually discover their purpose. A lot of companies during the pandemic realized that they didn't actually know their core values. Similar to what you asked me earlier about finding our why. They didn't know why they existed. They didn't know why clients would buy from them, and they didn't know who were their ideal customers. Yeah. So I've been guiding a few businesses into revaluing who they want to work with and serve, as well as why their business exists. So
that is amazing. Are you doing this for businesses as well as individuals?
Yes, yeah. I help leaders in organizations or emerging leaders. So we were talking about this just offline a bit earlier. So that sort of 20 to 30-year-old bracket of hungry individuals who want to climb the corporate ladder.
Yeah.
I help them get more prepared in the skills they need to be that leader in the future. and also make sure they don't compromise their life and experience burnout, such as quite a lot of directors suffer. So I make sure we keep the balance in life, but I also help larger organizations engage as a whole outwardly, aka the communication with their clients and future clients, as well as inside and internally within their key stakeholders and employees.
Wow, that is exciting and very far from engineering, but be that as it may, what are your three worst moments or teaching moments that you've had during your adventures, whether it's when you were attempting for the world championships, or when you were training, or when you're actually maybe on a mountain or during a race? Just three moments that were teaching moments for you that you could share with the people that are watching.
Yeah, three just came to mind. One is, it was my last training session before attempting my world championships. Was actually in China. I was living in a remote village in Australia at the time, and because of my breakup with my ex, I didn't have any money. So my village crowdfunded to pay for me to go to China.
Oh, wow.
2 days before I was flying out, I had my last training session, and it was very dark. It was pitch black at night. I had a head torch on. I just cycled for 6 hours, and I was so cold I couldn't feel my fingers. And where I used to run was up and down the railway track, because it was the only flat bit of land where I lived. I lived in the mountains in Australia. And I was stumbling and falling over the gravel because I couldn't see properly, and I was very tired. And suddenly behind me, there was a beam of light that shone so I could see more when I was running. And I realized a friend of mine from the village, Brett, had come out on his bicycle, even though it was 10 p.m. at night, to shine the light in my path.
Oh, wow.
And it was quite a spiritual moment, because at the beginning of my journey, everyone laughed at me. I was the girl who couldn't run a mile, who had asthma, who said she was going to be world champion. And the whole village thought I was the village idiot and I wouldn't go far. But over time, they saw every single day I would turn up committed. And I finally won their hearts by realizing that I was committed to this. And I was this close, so close to actually achieving it, because I was going to be flying to China. And seeing Brett's light shine my path in front of me, I realized I'd inspired them all, and now it was their turn to inspire me. So my light lit up in each one of them the world of possibility, and now it was their turn to help me, because I was struggling. And that's when my eyes welled with tears, and I realized all we need to do in life is just give for giving's sake, because we love doing that. And naturally it will come back to us. And that was just such a magical moment for me on that railway track, running up and down in the dark.
Yeah, that is, I'm actually getting emotional. That is such a sweet thing. I always say that you need to be your own cheerleader before others cheer you. But you articulate it so well. Wow. And that was one moment. I can't wait to hear the next two.
Well, the next two involve my father. So I was in China, and I had just won world championships. So it was a very tough race. It was a 2.5 mile swim, 90 mile bike ride, I think, and then a 20-mile run. And I'd just been announced world champion, and I was standing on the podium. They gave me a gold medal and a ceramic plate. And walking home with my parents, my mother kept saying, "I can't believe it, my daughter's #1 in the world." And my father was holding the ceramic plate. And somehow he dropped it. He chipped the edge of it. And my father's not very emotional. He displays his love in different ways. It's not through words, and it's not through tactileness. And he burst into tears, and he said, "Oh my God, I've broken your world championships. You're not a world champion. Let me buy you a new one." And I was laughing, because the lesson I got was, Dad, the world champion is in me. It's not in the ceramic plate. The journey that got me here is what made me, not the ceramic plate. And I've kept the plate purely to remind Dad that we don't need to be proved. We don't need the external to remind ourselves who we are. So I love displaying the plate with a little chip on it to remind yourself. It doesn't matter. You can't break what's within me. And so that was a really great story that my dad still cringes a little bit about, but I'm sure he'll get the message one day.
Oh, wow. That is an amazing story. How old is your dad, if I may ask?
He's 72 now. So that was
wow.
6 years ago. So yeah.
Yeah. And are you the only one in the family?
I've got a younger brother as well.
Okay. Wow. What pressure. Older sister with a world championship. Do you want to give us a third one, or should we go to 3 aha moments?
I'll give you a third one very quickly because it does involve a mountain. So my father had given up on one of his dreams to climb Mont Blanc. And when he turned 70, that's when he realized it was now or never. And after speaking with me, I said, I'll do it with you, and I'll hold your hand, and I'll make sure that, we can do it together so you don't have to give up on it. So last year at 71, he did summit Mont Blanc. And, I think you've climbed Mont Blanc, have you?
No. When I went there, the season was over, so we couldn't. So we climbed mountains around it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, one day, please come over and we can climb it together. That would be wonderful.
That's a date. Absolutely. I would love to. That's an amazing 3 and very inspiring. I absolutely love the lessons behind all of them. And it's something that we could actually take as individuals in our personal lives as well. And what about 3 aha moments?
3 aha moments.
Yes.
Sorry. Could you give me an example of one of yours?
I think for me, it's going up Everest in 2017, the year that I was left for dead in the death zone. Going up, one of the things that I realized is it didn't matter how dark it was. The stars that were shining around me and the moon inspired me so much. I don't know, everybody talks about the sun rising up and how beautiful. So maybe because I come from Africa and I saw these stars and I was just mesmerized. It looked like stars that I had seen in cartoon movies. Like I could just walk up there and walk with the stars and touch them. And it was just emotional, even though I hadn't summited. And just made me, it's one of the many small things that kept me going after I hadn't summited during that year, after going so close and yet so far. And that even today tells me that I can learn anything from any challenge, whether I succeed towards my goal during that time or not. It's just being grateful for the little things in life. So that was an aha moment for me.
Yeah, that's absolutely, beautiful. I got chills when you were talking about it. That's amazing.
Yeah. Anyway, so do you want to give us at least one of yours, or can we move on to the next question?
Yeah, I think for me, one of my aha moments was when I did my first Ironman triathlon. I was petrified because I built it up into this huge mountain of, a huge feat of human endurance. I was so nervous I actually wet myself just before starting my race. I was wearing a wetsuit, no one knew. And as I started to swim, something must have clicked in my head. I had a aha moment of, I am an Ironman. I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Just one stroke at a time. It wasn't as hard as I had imagined. And it's similar to climbing a mountain, just one step at a time. We don't jump to the top of the mountain. And in that one stroke at a time, I realized I was already there, wherever there was. And I let go of any expectation or pressure. And I just, again, I'm very emotional. I burst into tears. My goggles fogged up. I had to stop swimming to clean them out. But when I realized no goal is, I don't need to wait to get that gold medal. I don't need to wait to be at the top of that mountain to realize that, it's magic here. The path is the journey, not the destination.
Absolutely. the one thing, so I am competitive, and one of the things that shifted is realizing that the person I need to compete with is who I was yesterday, and not anybody else around me. And that saved me so well, compared to the time when I was looking around and everybody was better than me and I needed to be that. You get there and you have to do more. And the reality is, we are uniquely extraordinary, unique, and nobody can do me better than I can. And I think there's beauty in realizing that. It's liberating. You suddenly feel free, because you know that only you can be the best, of who you are, and nobody else can do it better. What advice would you give to a younger kid?
I would say care less about what people think.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a good one. We do, don't we? What pushed you to actually decide that you have to live an extraordinary life, as you call it? Or was it always like that? Is this something that was ingrained in you, by parents, or did something happen that just made you say, this is it?
I think it was when I graduated from university and I took a year out to travel and then came back and felt the weight of expectation I call it, to start that societal tick list lifestyle. Get a job, get a house, get a boyfriend, get a dog, get married, get kids. I could just see my entire life until the day before I die rolling out with no break in it at all and no questioning. So I've chosen not to have children from an early age. But if I followed this program, I couldn't even choose that. And I think realizing the expectation of fitting into what society expected for me really sort of was the impetus for me to say, no, I just need to find my own path and not follow like a sheep what everyone thinks I should be doing. Like, remove the word should from my life and every day wake up and go, what do I want to do today? What can I do today? And what can I choose to do as well?
Yeah. And, so just following on to that, what legacy do you want to leave behind?
That's a really powerful question. You are one lady that I really am inspired by, because your legacy already is enormous, that you're bringing education to the masses, and your legacy is something that I really am using as a point of inspiration. And so I'd love people to look at me and go, Kate lived life to the max and has left the world a better place. What that looks like specifically, I'm unsure yet, but I'm exploring it, but I'm in no rush. That's something I've also learned along my path. As long as I'm in the conversation and on the journey, the answer will find me at the right time, rather than trying to force an outcome today. So yes, I do want to leave a legacy, but what that looks like yet, I'm not sure. So if something that you hear in my voice or in what I show stands out to you, please let me know, because I'm sure you could help me.
You're doing well. You are leaving a legacy. I mean, how many people can claim that they have actually attempted, not even won, a world championship? So I think that is a legacy. There's a young girl out there that's saying, I too can do this. There's a woman out there that's in a bad relationship that's saying, I can break free and be me. So that is, don't underestimate that. You're already leaving a legacy right there. But I'm sure with given time, you're going to leave an even bigger legacy, but you've started and you're doing well. And I'm inspired by that. So thank you. Kate, we're almost coming to an end. I would like you to maybe leave a few words for our listeners. So most of them are hikers, some of them are mountaineers, but it's really ordinary people. I don't believe people are ordinary, but it's just people, trying to do their best and leaving the world just a little bit better in their own way and in their own spaces. What wise words can you give from your perspective?
I'll bring some words of inspiration that, as you know, just a few hours before this call, I was on a bike ride myself with my partner. So once a week we go out for a freestyle. I call it freestyle. We just do what we want on a bicycle. And And we realized we were thinking about the future. So something I really want to get people connected with is the present. The present moment is in the space of all the power. In this very minute now, this is when we're creating the future. And a lot of people, especially hikers or people striving for something a little bit in the future, we're not living now. We're living into, oh, in half an hour's time, I'm going to be at X place, or in 6 months' time, I'm going to be climbing that mountain. And we forget to stop and look at where we are right here, right now. So I just would love people to let go of the future. It will arrive when it's ready. We're in no rush, because I'm not in a rush to get to the end of my life, because I know what that's waiting for, and that can take as long as it wants. So to bring ourselves to today, to right here, right now, and enjoy the practice hike, enjoy lockdown for what it brings us, enjoy everything we can in this moment, and strive for a brighter future, but let's not live in that. Let's live in the now. So that's something I really want people to release, and also just enjoy here, because this is pretty much all we've got, as I keep saying.
Oh yeah, that is beautiful. They say that today is called the present for a reason. Let's embrace it as a gift that it is. So thank you so much. Thank you for your time. And guys, thank you for listening. And this was amazing. And that was Kate Strong. She is very strong. And she's going to come back and tell us all about her challenge, the challenge that she's taking on. If you were not listening, this is climbing Everest, cycling 3,000 kilometers, and swimming right from Britain to France. Is that correct? Yeah. How many kilometers would that be?
It's 21 miles. So what's that, 35 kilometers?
Yeah, about, I think. Yeah, about. That is amazing, Kate. And she's doing it to highlight the lack of diversity in the sport. So trying to make sure there's a lot more inclusion in there, and also to just make sure that everybody out there believes that they too can do anything that they would like with the time that they have. And remember, today is the present. And thank you, Kate, for being with us and for sharing those words of wisdom. Okay, guys.